Hey everyone, it's Alan over at Cobblers Plus, and today we're going to be resoling a pair of RM Williams with a pair of Dainite Soles. Come join us and check out how it's done. I'm Alan Tershkov. Join us today and enter our world of a cobbler to see the craftsmanship it takes to rebuild and restore footwear and other leather goods, as well as recommendations from our industry. So today we got a pair of RM Williams. They're made in Australia. They're not very common out here for us. It seems like, at least in the Denver area, I've noticed. I've had a few come through, but we're going to be putting on a Dainite sole on these. And as you can tell, I mean, the sole at first glance seems like it's barely worn, but this gentleman has a tendency to wear out the toes quite a bit. And in most cases, we'd actually put on what's called a French toe plate, metal little toe piece that goes into position, sitting flush with the soles. But this gentleman wants a little more traction, so he's going for the Dainite to get a little more durability and traction. Oh, sorry. A little bit of traction as well. I just had lunch. But as usual, we're going to start out by pulling off the heel. So these heels are a little soft, so they like to stretch out on us. Get a little bit of better leverage here. I believe these are about the same thickness as what the new Dainite heels are going to be like, but I'm going to set one of these aside regardless so that I can make sure I measure everything out to make sure it all fits nicely. Wow, got the heel base off, and there's or top lift off, and there's a few little nails. If I can take this off here, a few little gripper nails that are sticking up right there. Now these gripper nails, they go on the inside of the boot underneath the footbed and liners and everything to hold the heel base together. Sometimes there's a few little nubs sticking out, so if I can find my pliers or my nippers, I'm gonna go ahead and clip off whatever might be sticking out a little too much, just so that I don't end up accidentally hurting myself or scratching any other boots or shoes more than I'd really, well, at all. I don't want that to happen, but you never know, and having those sticking out could even be worse. So put a little bit of thinner around where the heel base attaches to the sole. Dripped a little on my foot. That's why I can't have any nice shoes when I work here. If you make fun of me that I'm wearing tennis shoes, I had a gentleman saying if you notice that he's wearing flip-flops. Summertime, it gets really hot back here sometimes. Wintertime, it gets really cold very fast, and I have to have this little guy here to regulate the temperature in this room. We don't turn on the main heating, or at least the main heater in the building, just because this room gets really hot very fast. So if you judge me by my shoes and I'm a cobbler, shame on you. I can't wear nice things here. I just spilt thinner on my tennis shoes. Imagine if I had a nice pair of shoes, especially with a nice, beautiful custom patina job that I put my time and effort into and shined them. I'd be heartbroken right now. I'd stop everything and be like, oh no, I gotta fix this. It's not okay. So I gotta wear things that I can end up tossing. And if I'm wearing flip-flops and I spill some on there, I'll just wash it off. No biggie. I'm not gonna toss my feet like I will the tennis shoes. I still need my feet. Oh, that one's got more gripper nails sticking out. Don't know if you can see that too well from back here, but clip them off. Once we get the heel bases, I can't talk, heel bases off, you'll see those gripper nails a little bit more at that point. Okay. Oh. Can't forget to put some thinner on there. Try to avoid dripping on my foot if possible. Got close to my foot. Alright. Don't need too long for that thinner to activate. It really starts working almost immediately. Now I'm going to go over my heel pry here. Start wedging it underneath where the heel base is. And just working my way around. How many of you have RM Williams out there? How do you like them? For me as a cobbler, they're definitely not a bad build. Well worth the investment. But for you, for any of you who have them out there, who wear them every day or every now and then, how do you like them? Leave a comment down below, let me know. As a cobbler, it's always my kind of responsibility to be able to recommend good quality footwear and shoes all the time, especially with the markets being so flooded with all that cheap made in China versions where they're just mass produced. I mean, there's a couple of Chinese manufacturers out there that are very good. They do custom made bespoke shoes. They do great work. But I'm talking about the mass produced garbage out there. You know, so new customer comes in, they bring in some piece of junk or anything. I'm not going to turn it down, but if they do ask, what shoes do you recommend? Start naming them off all the time, and you know, it'd be great to know, what does everyone think of these ones here if you have them. You can see right there, there's those gripper nails sticking out quite a bit. Now I'm going to have to clip them again, not to hurt myself right now. We're not going to try to yank them out through this way. We have to take them out through the inside. And the only way I could do that is once the sole is off. You know, anything else that may possibly get in the way has to be removed too. Sometimes the nails are stubborn and they can only be ground down as much as possible as well. But the goal is to always try to get them pulled out. All right, so I'll go ahead and put some thinner on here real quick around the welt area. Just around the welt there. And I should probably go get some oil for this jack stand to keep it from squeaking. Some people don't like the squeak sounds, I know. My father's that way. He hates sounds like that. It's to him like nails on a chalkboard, and anything resembling that drives him insane. Alright, but I'm going to go ahead and take off the heel base off of this one. I'm going to grab some oil for this jack stand here. That's what they're called. And put some on there so it doesn't squeak so much anymore. Alright, I'll be right back in just a minute. Alright, so I've got the other heel base off. I had gone ahead and wrote down left and right on that with the ticket number and just RMW for RM Williams so that I know which heel bases go to which pair. And oh man, it was just spinning around so beautifully just a second ago. I only had some WD-40 I was able to grab real quickly. I'm gonna have to get some actual grease and get it in there, but I just pushed this thing and it started spinning. It was amazing, but not gonna work right now. And I've got to hurry up and get stuff going all the time, so can't stop to screw around with things too long. But I've got my little my rip knife like this here, and go ahead and start cutting through all the stitches here. Just squeeze right there in between the welt and the sole. Sorry, I got distracted about the phone call and just kept working, and I ended up just cutting through all the stitches all around and got it all the way through. But if you've watched some of my previous videos, you already know it just literally goes around between the welt and the midsole, or not the midsole, the sole. Sometimes it's between a welt and a midsole. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab my heel pry here again and go around the back area, because the back area on these are not stitched. It's not a full 360 welt. It stops right here is where all the stitching stops. So this back area is usually nailed down. That's where those gripper nails come into play. Just kind of pry it up a bit. And now I can go ahead and grab my pliers here. They definitely use a softer leather You know, softer leather sounds nice, but it actually isn't always nice. The reason why it's soft is just because, one, it doesn't last as long, and two, it has a tendency to absorb moisture a lot easier too. So a lot of salts and minerals, if you live in a place like here in Colorado, you get a lot of those chemicals and water out there. Sorry, I keep getting phone calls, and there we go. It's those gripper nails, especially the last two that are closest to the front. They're always kind of the more semi-finicky ones in a way. There we go. All right, so we got that off. Now a little bit of cork came off, but we're replacing that anyways. So, you know, even if the soles are fairly new or not broken in, I'd much rather replace the cork, just because it still absorbs an amount of sweat or moisture. Kind of refreshes everything on the inside of the shoe, something that nobody ever pays attention or notices to as well. And from the look of this cork that they're using on it, it's also the hot cork method, where they just put a melted form of cork in there and then just press it in. And it can be a little problematic sometimes with that hot cork, where the company ends up adding too much or too little. And what we use are sheets of cork, which are predetermined density and everything. So definitely, you know, definitely could end up being a better thing for whoever's wearing the shoes or boots, just because the density is the same all across. You don't have one little spot that's a little too hard and another spot that's too soft. Get out as much of that as I can for now. Definitely not a bad build. I like them. You know, they use if I can get this off, they use a fiberglass shank in there, which are definitely not like your steel shanks or anything. They have a little more give, but definitely a lot more rigid than the wood shanks that you come across, or some of the imitation shanks, I like to say, that are not really made out of anything decent. Let's see, he's got his insoles. Place them up here. Now, along with the insoles, we're going to take off this inner heel pad that covers up these gripper nails, if I can get it. Oh man, that one's really in there. Tell you what, at least they're using a hefty amount of glue that holds everything together well. Dang it, the little corner I pulled up came undone. I'm usually pulling these out with my left hand, but I have a little bit of damage there. It's almost healed, but it's still a little tender. I must have hit a nerve. Anyone that's wondering, I was with a steel brush. I was working on a pair of Vibram soles, which are very grippy, and the steel brush kind of kicked off the sole and went straight across my hand. There we go. Got the little heel pads out now. Put that with the footbed that he had it added in there. Added. I can't talk, man. Oh, and then I'm putting a little piece of crepe. You can see I've been using this to remove old nails. So I put it inside like that to the very back of the heel in there. Put this back on the last. And now these gripper nails that are sticking out, all these heads here, just hammer them down in there. Because ripping them out through the top, you're going to make massive holes and everything, and leaving them behind, you get, you know, after a period of time, if you resole these shoes over and over, it just turns out a mess. So, oh man, sometimes these nails want to bend. These are old nails, which are great. They must have had a good stock of them. There's a new version of these gripper nails out that most cobblers and manufacturers are using now, like the new ones. They have a softer metal in there, and they're kind of junk. Unfortunately, the company that used to make these very well had shut down, and so all of us cobblers and shoe manufacturer and boot manufacturers were kind of frustrated trying to find a good replacement alternative, and the current ones that we have we're not happy with, but there's no other company out there making these same type of nails. They have a lot out there that may be similar, but they're not the same. They don't function the same way for us cobblers. So there we go. All right, take out this piece of crepe there. Turn that off. Gotta have the heater running because it's winter time here still, and it can get chilly back here every now and then since I don't have the machines quite yet running. Where are my pliers? That's a mess. Oh, there they are. They're right in front of me. Get in here with some pliers and just pull out the nails just like that by the head. So much better, so much safer than leaving the old nails behind, or the heads at least, or trying to rip them out through the outside of the boot, which is definitely not a good thing. Takes a little extra time, but you know, I'd rather get it done the way it should be done. Put a little extra time in there. It's gonna make it a lot easier for me down the road when I have to resole these again, or if another cobbler has to resole them after a long period of wearing. And it makes these boots just last that much longer with the whole resole process without having to deal with all the whole headache of, you know, having to buy a new pair, break them in and everything, or spending the money on it too. You know, if you got a fair amount invested in your shoes or boots, might as well take good care of them. Let's see. I thought my little nail puller would help, but I have to find my other pliers. Somebody stole them out of here. All right, I'll go ahead and take out the nails. You might be able to possibly see inside there, I don't know. But I'll go ahead and take them out the rest of the way. I'll get this other boot taken care of. Get the rest of this cork out here and get everything sanded out. Pull out the old stitches right there on the edges. And start getting ready to refill that cork. So we'll see you back here in just a little bit then on that. All right, so we're back over at our shine machine that has a little stitch puller attachment here. It's got these little nubs here that are designed to get in there and pull out these old stitches here. We've got the cork majority of the way sanded out. Of course, there's going to be small little residue left behind, but if I forcefully try to sand all that out, you're going to have some issues then afterwards, and we don't want that to happen. Now the shank is glued in here fairly well, so I'm not going to try to forcefully take it out. The problem with these fiberglass ones are that they do have a tendency to bend and change their shape. So if they're glued in, we'll leave them as is and not touch them. We're not going to try to remove them. Now if they're damaged and need to be replaced, obviously we're going to take it out, rip it out by all means, and then replace it. But these fiberglass ones usually hold up very, very well. So we're going to go ahead and pull out the stitches. I'm just going to go through all the way around, get out whatever I can. Any remainder stitches, I'm going to pull out the rest of the way by hand. Thought I'd show you this. I don't know why, but this is one of my most enjoyable parts of removing stitches. I have no idea why. Don't ask me. I just like it. But we'll go ahead and get started on that. So we got majority of the stitches out. Maybe see the light coming through the holes just a little bit there. And then there's a few spots here and there, like right there, there's still some stitches behind. There's some right in these areas. I don't want to forcefully press up against this too hard or anything, and then potentially end up damaging any of the welt or anything else, especially in these connecting areas where the heel rim connects to the welt. I don't want to damage that. Sometimes it can happen, but try to minimize potential for that. And I did forget to mention also the heel run on this one, I'm not too happy about. They actually used a fiberboard on it. It's not leather. That's a shame. I honestly thought it was going to be leather. But hey, you know, whatever they end up doing, it's not like we're the ones making the boots or shoes. If I made a pair of boots or shoes, you would not see fiberboard in there. I'm not quite at that point yet. I don't have time to make shoes or boots, don't ask. I get requests like that sometimes, and I'm sorry, I've only got 2 hands and only set amount of time. Alright, but I'm going to go ahead and pull out the rest of the stitches by hand. I know this angle's kind of odd or something there possibly for you, but maybe you saw some of the pieces of thread just flinging out and flying all over the place. I don't know. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but hopefully that part was kind of enjoyable to you as it was to me. Alright, we'll see you back in a little bit when it's time to get this all glued up with the cork. I'm going to put glue on here and the cork, and we'll see you back when. Alright, so we're back here again. Got everything all glued up. Shank is still in its proper position and everything. It hasn't shifted around because I let the original glue kind of hold it down. It's not going to come out very easily. But there were a few little small areas basically that I got in there and got some glue in. And using a pre-cut strip like that, and they just come out of sheets, so I just kind of cut them straight across and just lay it on in there. Got a bit of access there, or excess. I can't pronounce it. You who commented, now I am really messed up in the head saying access, excess. I can't pronounce it right. Somebody made fun of my accent about it. Now I can't say it right anymore at all, either direction. But I'm gonna go ahead and fill this all in. All the extra, make it easier to say on me, for me to say. It has been a long day. But if I can get this off, got it in right now. I'm gonna let this sit and cure for just a little bit, and then I'm gonna go ahead and sand it out flush, start gluing everything up to get the sole stuck on there. Now most of the time we end up using what's called a midsole. Let me grab it. Sorry, I had to grab this one, but most of the time we use what's called a midsole on a pair of boots that goes on, and then the Dainite Sole goes over top of that. We're not going to do it with this pair. There's a few reasons why. There's a midsole put onto a pair of boots like this. A midsole is designed to make the shoe a little bit stiffer, you know, in the toe area. When you got a pair of boots, you know, there's enough stability around the ankle area right here, or the shaft area, some people call it, where having that extra resistance on the toe is actually beneficial. It's better for support in general. Takes a little bit of strain off your toes. I mean, with a Dainite Sole, it's a little bit more on the flexible side usually. The reason why I'm not putting a midsole on these, there's two. One, because the Dainite Sole was about the same thickness as, I'm not doing the red, don't worry. The Dainite Sole is about the same thickness as what the original leather sole was, so we don't want to change that thickness at all. The other thing is, because this is more of a slip-on boot, it's not a lace-up, it has no buckles, has no nothing else, it's a slip-on. So the problem is when you have too much resistance on the toe, naturally all that material wants to push back down on the heel area, so you have a lot more trouble with the heel slipping in the back here. With the lace up especially, or any other form of way of securing this area up here, you're gonna definitely be able to cinch that down, and you won't have that kind of problem with the back of the heel trying to slip off or anything because you've cinched it down. A slip-on, however, like this here, or even one that has a zipper up the side of it right there, there is a high probability that it's just going to try to slip off your heel. There's nothing holding it well enough except for basic friction. And so, you know, you could end up with blisters. It might be uncomfortable. Or if you have a much narrower heel, even with an ankle boot like this, you may possibly end up losing it off your foot while walking. Or if you end up having to run, catching a taxi or something, you might lose that boot or shoe. Well, with a shoe, that's a definite. That's why they don't come with midsoles majority of the time if they're a shoe, even with a lace up. It's only a handful of shoes that have midsoles on them, and they're a little bit bulkier in general. But a boot like this should be a little bit more slimmer, low profile, and everything kind of construction compared to some of them out there. And I just wanted to point that out. That was kind of the big question of why do boots or shoes have midsoles? Well, boots, again, the more material you have, the better the resistance is where the toe bends, and that's better and more beneficial overall for the strain on the toes. But a lot of builds and styles of boots and shoes can't accommodate this midsole here, even though it's only 1/8 of an inch, so you have to go straight to the sole. Just wanted to point that out. Hopefully it helped clear up some questions for some of you out there. I've seen that question a few times, and I've had it asked me a few times. But that's generally what it's all about. There is also the decorative aspect. I mean, if your shoes or boots didn't come with it previously and you want to just add an extra layer for the appearance of it, or if you actually want that resistance, we can add that midsole. We can remove it as well, you know. Either way works, but I just don't recommend it on slip-ons, especially adding the midsole. You're gonna lose it. If you want the midsole, by all means, I could put it on. If it's nice, tight, snug fit in the heel area, I could definitely do that for you. Anyways, I gotta hurry up and stick the other ones together, sand out all that on the bottom, and start gluing it up, at least the first coat today. The first coat's gonna be like a primer. Basically, I'm gonna leave that overnight to dry just because I gotta get going here for tonight. And then tomorrow morning I'll come in, put the second coat on, put the single coat on the rubber sole, and get it ready to stick together. All right, so we'll see you back here tomorrow then. All right, so got the Dainite Sole here all heated up and everything. Now this is going to be a very close call, in other words, because we got the pegs here, of course, and this thing's pretty warm still, and we want to get it to line up as best we can, but it's a little bit of a challenge just because this is a different build style slightly, and it's a little bit narrower. Plus the other problem is that currently the smallest size we can get here for us cobblers is a 9 in these Dainite soles, from what I understand, and you know, it's going to be a little bit of a large sole, so it's cutting it very, very close there. Hopefully everything is going to hold up nicely and stays intact, but man, this thing is warm. Laid out nicely. There we go. Left it in the oven just a little bit too long, longer than I'd usually go for. Alright, there we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and just stick it on the press, leave it on there for just a minute. On each section, usually our press presses out the heel, then from the heel to roughly about the ball of the foot, and then from the ball of the foot to the toe like that. And they're piece by piece. Afterwards, we go through our welt press. It presses all this out. I'm going to set it up on the shelf and let it cure overnight, and be back in here tomorrow to sand it out a little more flush, do the channel grooving on here, and then get ready to stitch it. All right, so we'll be back over tomorrow here to work on it. For you, it'll be a few seconds, but for me, I'll be overnight, and I finally get some rest tonight. But we'll see everybody a little bit later. All right, so I've got the sole cured up and everything, ready to sand out the edges, and I thought I'd show it off a little bit how we end up doing the channeling here. We got a little channeling tool right there that's gonna kind of cut out that little area where the stitch is going to sit nice and flush down inside of it and protects it for a longer period of time. And I already did the other one, but I'll show you with this one here. So usually with rubber, we prefer to use the sander just a little bit. It's a little bit easier and it doesn't grab as easily. But right here in the arch area, it's a bit of a tight squeeze for the sander to be able to get in there. So I may have to hit it just a little bit on the trimmer right there, just in that area. I prefer not to, just because, again, this is a metal blade that spins really fast, and there is a potential that it may just try to jerk and yank that sole or boot out of my hand. But you know, sometimes we've got to do it, and we just got to be very, very careful. But I'll go ahead and get started now on that. All right, got it taken care of. Now, I did also, of course, mark up the, or not mark up, or I did mark up. I marked up over here where the heel base is going to be, or the heel block, some of you may know it as, and sanded that out to get it ready to start getting glued up after we do the stitching. Now, this sole is the smallest one we have in our arsenal. You know, it's one of those things where I did mention to the gentleman saying that there's a chance that due to the build of this style boot, because of how tapered off it is in certain areas and everything, especially right in this arch area, things are going to be tight. And this is a perfect example. You can see right there where the channeling is. It did go over the little nub there just a little bit, and the other one, same exact thing as well. I got a little stuff on there. Gotta buff it up real quick. But it is a perfect time for me to show you this, that there are some shoe brands and boot brands out there that when they use a Dainite sole, they accidentally stitch over those little nub areas. It's more of an aesthetics thing. I mean, I don't like the look of it. You know, it's one of those things I just really can't stand how it looks, but there's nothing that could be done about it. At least with this boot. You know, if it's a larger boot or a different type of build, or at least a different type of build at the very least, you know, we wouldn't have this problem. But unfortunately, I already mentioned to the gentleman that we may end up having that issue with going over the nubs just a little bit. But it's more of an aesthetics thing. It's not going to be very noticeable, in other words, and it's not going to affect the overall you know, structure of the integrity of the sole in any kind of way. Again, more of an aesthetics thing. There are some cases where it's not very good structurally. In some cases, especially because some companies will actually do what's called a top stitch. They don't pre-channel a groove of any kind for the stitch to sit down in, and so the stitch just kind of sits over top. And if they end up going over top of one of these nubs a little too much, then it's not just aesthetically unpleasing, it's actually a little bit you know, one of those things where structurally that stitch is just not going to hold up very well at all. But that's with the top stitch, of course. So we'll go ahead and clean out this channel here right now. I'm going to put our first coat of glue on the heel basis as a primer so that it starts to dry, and then get ready to stitch it. So we'll see you back here in just a little bit then. All right, I almost forgot, I did mark down right here where the stitches start and end, because we're going to be stitching upside down. I don't see where it ends on here, so took a pen, marked it. So we'll go ahead and spray it down with some water for some lubricant. Helps it kind of glide along, just because rubber, of course, tries to grip a little too much. Okay. It's kind of hard to see with the glasses on because the water's reflecting everything. had to stop there just because it was a little too reflective with that water there and having the glasses on all at the same time for eye protection. Usually I tend to wear them, but I don't want to screw up the shoes. I guess the shoes come before my eyes, just in case if one of the needles break. Just shows how much commitment with some of us cobblers put into the shoes. We're willing to risk our eyesight to make the shoes done right. Okay. Alright, go ahead and clip off some of this extra thread here. There we go. So it's a little wet and a little hard to tell, but not too shabby. Show the other side there. Not too bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish out the other one. Go ahead and wipe it all off, blow off all the water and everything, make sure it comes out of all the nooks and crannies, and then from then I'm gonna go ahead and start running some clinch nails. I keep forgetting what they're called. Clinch nails in the back area of the heel here to hold it all down, just because the little staples that hold it down just aren't holding it well enough. And we definitely want to have that back area here secured, even though we're going to have gripper nails going on the inside. Still going to put some clinch nails down just because for future purposes, in case we just need to replace the heel or the heel block. This sole isn't going to come up on us if the heel, or if it's just the heel that needs to be replaced and not the sole. So I'll go ahead and finish out the other one and see you back in just a little bit. Alright, so I accidentally put a little layer of glue on here already, which won't hurt it or anything, before I realized, hey, I forgot to run the nails in. But I already ran the nails in the other one, but I'll go ahead and let you guys check out what it's like on this one. So we got these clinch nails kind of like that. Don't know how visible they are for you on camera, but they've got this little round head like that. These ones are indicated with the round just because they are actually designed for rubber material. There are other forms of clinch nails that some of you may have seen me using in other videos where they have a flatter head. Don't know if that's visible or not. The flat ones are designated for leather strictly, where the round head ones, the way they're designed, they're really designed to grab into that rubber a little bit better. You can use them on leather, but I don't recommend it. It turns out funny. In other words, you can't get those flat-headed ones to sit down very well in the rubber, and you can't get the rounded head ones to sit down very well in the leather. So they kind of counter each other if you accidentally flip them around. But these ones work great for the rubber. We're just going to go ahead and get one lined up here on the very back, tap it a little bit. Gotta take this off to show you. So you can see it sits inside the rubber there nicely, where if I do it with the flathead, which I'll do just to show you guys real quick. See what I mean? These are a tight fit. They're barely fitting over the last. There's still wiggle room on this last for it to move around, but yeah. So I'll just show you real quick with the flathead. It sat down in there nicely. This time, the first one I accidentally did, I grabbed it, no idea what I was thinking. It was a very crazy busy day today, so I'm all over the place mentally. But it just wouldn't sit properly, and it just ended up being one of those things where I was like, wait, nope, I did something wrong in my head. Can tell right away. Oh, come on. Gotta get this one out. I could leave it in, but surprisingly it's sitting in there pretty good. The last one just would not sit right. Now let me fix my sample that I was trying to show you real quick. I'll do that off camera so I'm not wasting your time. But I'll go ahead and run the nails in. I've got one here, I'm gonna have 2 there, and then 2 more here, and then 2 more here. A total of 7 clinch nails that are designated for the rubber. So I'll get that taken care of, and I already got the glue on there. I'll touch up wherever I need to with the glue and let it cure for a little while, and get ready to press them on, and we'll see you back in just a minute. Alright, so I ended up having to finish out a fair amount of it off camera with all the sanding and edging and everything, but I had to hurry up and get these all taken care of. But think they turned out pretty alright there. May need to buff up the sole just a little bit more, but you get the idea, right? And of course, gave him a full treatment on the uppers. I did reglue the inner heel pad that goes there, and then put his insoles back in that he had in these. So they're all ready and set to go. The cream, of course, I was going to condition them. Use the Saphir Medaille Renovateur cream to restore the nutrients. I didn't use any of the Pomadier cream just because it didn't really need any kind of color restoration. There wasn't any serious damage or wear to the uppers on them. I mean, overall, these seem to have been in great shape. And then finish it off with some Pate Deluxe from the Medaille line as well, just to give it a bit of a shimmer, and the wax will also help protect the uppers quite a bit more, repelling water or any other things that may get poured on it or end up getting dropped on it as well. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and you're more than welcome to stop by if you're local. If you're not local, you could always go to our website, cobblersplus.com. It's got all our contact information on there. You could send us a message, give us a call. We're more than happy to answer any questions or help you out with whatever we can. And if you're not local also and you want us to work on any of your footwear, you're more than welcome to ship it in. Just on our website at the top of the list, it says mail in order. There's a tab, or ship in order, I think it was actually. But just fill out or print out the PDF file and fill out the form, ship them on over. We'll take care of it and then ship it back to you. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up on it and hit the subscribe button and notification bell icon if you'd like to see any future videos as well. And we'll see you next time then.